Good afternoon. Alright, yeah, that is working. Alright. Today we're going over jQuery, and since it's pretty short, and I'm pretty familiar with jQuery already, we'll probably get to Sass as well, since that is short too. Let's get started. Alright, introduction to jQuery. jQuery is one of the many libraries for JavaScript. It is designed to simplify scripting done on the client side. jQuery's most recognizable characteristic is its $sign syntax. With it, you can easily manipulate elements, create animations, and handle input events. Let's go to the first lesson. Here's that playground that we created yesterday. Okay, let's learn how script tags and document ready work. Now we're ready to learn jQuery, the most popular JavaScript tool of all time. Before we can start using jQuery, we need to add some things to our HTML. First, add a script element at the top of your page. Be sure to close it on the following line. So we'll have a script. The browser will run any JavaScript inside a script element, including jQuery. Inside your script element, add this code. So we have document ready function, and then it's closed with this. We'll learn more about functions later. The important thing to know is that code you put inside the function will run as soon as your browser has loaded your page. This is important because without your document ready function, your code may run before your HTML is rendered, which would cause bugs. So yeah, this is pretty standard. Alright. Target HTML elements with selectors using jQuery. Sup, Digicrest? How are you doing today? Alright, so now we have a document ready function. Now let's write our first jQuery statement. All jQuery functions start with a $sign, usually referred to as a $sign operator or as bling. jQuery often selects an HTML element with a selector, then does something to that element. For example, let's make all of your button elements bounce. Just add this code inside your document ready function. So we use this, that's jQuery. We're gonna use a selector that selects all buttons. It's basically the same as CSS selectors. And we're gonna add a class to all buttons. It says animated bounce. I think there's a space there. Yes. Alright. Note that we've already included both the jQuery library and the Animate CSS library in the background so that you can use them in the editor. So you are using jQuery to apply the Animate CSS bounce class to your button elements. It is? Are you mad because there's no ending? Yes, you are. Alright. Target elements by class using jQuery. You see how we made all of your button elements bounce? We selected them with $, parentheses, button. Then we added some CSS classes to them with this markup. Just you just use jQuery's add class function, which allows you to add classes to elements. First, let's target your div elements with the class well by using the well selector. Note that, just like with CSS declarations, you type a period before the class's name. Then use jQuery's add class function to add the classes animated and shake. For example, you could make all the elements with the class text primary shake by adding the following to your document ready function. Text primary, add class animated shake. So let's see. We want to target the wells on the page, and we're going to add another class, animated shake. Whoa. It's pretty gnarly. And that one's happy, alright. Target elements by ID using jQuery. You can also target elements by their ID attributes. First, target your button element with the ID target3 by using the target3 selector. Note that, just like with CSS declarations, you type a hashtag before the ID's name. Then use jQuery's add class function to add the classes animated and fade out. Here's how you'd make the button element with the ID target6 fade out. Alright, so we're gonna have another selector here. And it's an ID, so target3. Animated fade out. Let's see it one more time. Awesome. Alright, delete your jQuery functions. These animations were cool at first, but now they're getting kind of distracting. Delete all 3 of your jQuery functions from your document ready function, but leave the document ready intact. So if we just look at these, we can see this is closing out the ready function, so we need everything inside here. So let's run the tests. Good to go. Target the same element with multiple jQuery selectors. Now you know 3 ways of targeting elements: by type, by class, and by ID. Although it's possible to add multiple classes in a single add class call, let's add them to the same element in 3 separate ways. Using add class, add only one class at a time to the same element, 3 different ways. Add the animated class to all elements with type button. Add the shake class to all the buttons with class button. Add the button primary class to the button with ID target 1. Note you should only be targeting one element and adding only one class at a time. Altogether, your 3 individual selectors will end up adding the 3 classes shake, animated, and button primary to target 1. Alright, I need to get some drink going here. Choices. We're gonna go with the blood orange. So we need to add a bunch of stuff. There we go. All right. So we need our $, and this is just basically shorthand for a function for jQuery. You could replace this with jQuery in most cases if you wanted. So the first thing we're selecting is all buttons, and we're gonna add class animated, and then we're using the ID to select all button or elements with the button class, and we're gonna add a class to them of shake that shakes all of them, but a real target is target 1. We're gonna add a class button primary to change its color. Cool. Alright, that should do it. What's the point of jQuery? Are you is that a kappa? What kind of face is that? Let's go and read the face. Yes, what is the point of jQuery? Indeed. I don't know, it's good introductory, like, this is what I learned JavaScript with starting out, like, I could do some PHP and stuff, but I was not very good at writing, like, scripted, dynamic stuff, or understanding even, like, arrays. And then jQuery came along, and it makes it simpler to get some of the basic concepts down, I feel. I know that there's JavaScript alternatives to do this stuff, and jQuery is really not needed, but yeah, I would totally agree with you though that you know, as you go along, you'll probably want to look at not using jQuery, but it's part of the course, so I'm doing it. Though at the same time, you might want to learn jQuery anyway, because it's literally everywhere. And if you do any work on the web, and you're not like coding your own thing from scratch, you don't want to add a bunch of libraries that do the same thing. So if jQuery is already there, might as well use it, you know, for things that it's useful for. Still, couldn't tell you what that is, but all right, so this, oh, we're removing classes now. All right, remove classes from an element with jQuery. In the same way you can add classes to an element with jQuery's add class function, you can remove them with jQuery's remove class function. Here's how you would do this for a specific button. Let's remove the button default class from all of our button elements. Remove the button default class from all of our button elements. So we want to, well, we have this one up here, and we can actually just chain. So we can do remove class, and we can say button default. Sweet. Change the CSS of an element using jQuery. We can also change the CSS of an element, an HTML element, directly with jQuery. jQuery has a function called CSS that allows us allows you to change the CSS of an element. Here's how we would change its color to blue. This is slightly different from a normal CSS declaration because the CSS property and its values are in quotes and separated with a comma instead of a colon. Delete your jQuery selectors, leaving an empty document ready function. Select target 1 and change its color to red. So it wants us to delete everything. And it wants us to use this, change the color to red. Man, this is bringing me back, because I remember a time when, like, man, that would confuse me. This is CSS, but in here you type it different than CSS you type somewhere else. What? No, I just know that this is a function and these are the parameters, and you're just passing them in a comma separated list. Wow. Disable an element using jQuery. You can also change the non-CSS properties of HTML elements with jQuery. For example, you can disable buttons. When you disable a button, it will become grayed out and can no longer be clicked. jQuery has a function called prop that allows you to adjust the properties of elements. Here's how you would disable all buttons. Disable only the target 1 button. Alright, so we have this here. We don't need to write a new one. We can change, so we'll do prop disabled and comma true. And that makes it disabled, so we can't click on it. Change text inside an element using jQuery. Using jQuery, you can change the text between the start and end tags of an element. You can even change HTML markup. jQuery has a function called HTML. It lets you add HTML tags and text within an element. Any content previously within the element will be completely replaced with the content you provide using this function. Here's how you would rewrite and emphasize the text of our heading. So we target the H3, and using HTML, we're putting what we have but wrapped with EM. jQuery also has a similar function called text that only alters text without adding tags. In other words, this function will not evaluate any HTML tags passed to it, but will instead treat it as the text you want to replace with the existing content with. Change the button with the ID target 4 by emphasizing its text. Check this link to know more on the difference between I and EM and their uses. Note that while I tag has traditionally been used to emphasize text, it has since been co-opted for use as a tag for icons. The EM tag is now widely accepted as the tag for emphasis. Either will work for this challenge. Okay. So it wants us to target target 4, and hashtag target 4. Oh my god. I really need to get used to this keyboard. I can't rest my fingers on it at all. Yeah. That's why I think that it's easier for teaching, because it's less to like take in. You just have the CS, the emphasis is on the selectors. It's an attribute, like if you're new, what the fuck does that mean, right? CSS, well, if you're trying to change CSS, you'd probably know CSS. So that's just an easy difference. But yeah, the unfortunate thing is that while it's shorter, jQuery adds weight to your page, so it's not the greatest thing when the browser has something for you to do it for free. If you wanted, you could even shorten them up yourself, though. What are we doing? Oh, we already did it, right? Target floor. Good to go. Remove an element using jQuery. Now let's remove an HTML element from your page using jQuery. jQuery has a function called remove that will remove an HTML element entirely. Remove element target 4 from the page by using the remove function. Alright, so we need another one of these. Target 4, not 5. And we're going to use remove on it. It just gets rid of it. Easy peasy. Use append to move elements with jQuery. Now let's try moving elements from one div to another. jQuery has a function called append to that allows you to select HTML elements and append them to another element. For example, if we wanted to move target 4 from our right well to our left well, we could use target 4, append to left well. Move your target 2 element from your left well to your right well. But yeah, this stuff, oh man. Doing stuff like this, man, I don't know that they should be teaching it. Because people shouldn't do this. Moving stuff around just for sake of it. Alright, so we're appending this to the right well. Oh, it's a hashtag. It's an ID. Boom. So our target 4 is removed. And then we move this one over there. Fancy. Clone an element using jQuery. In addition to moving elements, you can also copy them from one place to another. jQuery has a function called clone that makes a copy of an element. For example, if we wanted to copy target 2 from our left well to our right well, we would use target 2 clone append to the right well. Did you notice this involves sticking 2 jQuery functions together? This is called function chaining, and it's a convenient way to get things done with jQuery and a lot of other libraries. Clone your target 5 element and append it to your left well. So we need target 5, and we're gonna clone it, copy, and then we're gonna append it to the right well, no, the left well. So we've copied this one and we just stuck it over here. Target the parent of an element using jQuery. Every HTML element has a parent element from which it inherits properties. For example, your jQuery Playground H3 element has the parent element of div class container fluid, which itself has the parent body. jQuery has a function called parent that allows you to access the parent of whichever element you've selected. Here's an example of how you would use the parent function if you wanted to give the parent element of the left well element a background color of blue. Give the parent of the target 1 element a background color of red. So we're gonna chain, and that gives us the parent, and then CSS background red. It is, but okay. I got you, brah. I got you. I understand. All right, we'll do it. We'll do it your way. No chaining allowed. All right. Target the children of an element using jQuery. With HTML elements, when HTML elements are placed one level below another, they are called children of that element. For example, the button elements in this challenge with the text target 1, target 2, and target 3 are all children of the div class well ID leftWell element. jQuery has a function called children that allows you to access the children of whichever element you selected. Here's an example of how you would use the children function to give the children of your leftWell element the color blue. Give all the children of your whitewell element the color orange. So we're gonna target the right well, and then we're gonna get the children of the right well and give them the CSS color, wow, that was loud, of orange. Hold on to this. Vanos. I hope I said that right. Thanks, bud. How you doing today? Yeah, I know, Digicrest. No chaining allowed. Right after teaching you about chaining. Yes. Alright, so we've targeted our right well. We're getting all the children of it, and then we're changing the CSS color to orange. I am doing really well. Really, really well. Last night I hit a goal of 4,600 trophies on Clash Royale, so that's pretty cool. It's just the Challenger 3 rank. Next one's Master. Super happy about that because I've been trying to get it like the past couple weeks. I think you're my first bid donation, man. I really like it. It's a little pay to win, but it's not too bad. It takes a while to grind out cards. I have admittedly put money into it, but it's real fun. And it actually takes skill, and I think that they've been taking a lot of skill out of some games. So those gloating laugh emojis are no joke. I literally I turn off emotes so that I don't rage, because they are annoying, especially when somebody's just spamming them and you can't hear the cards being played, because sometimes you'll play a card and you can actually hear it before you can see it, so it's like it really messes with you. I don't like it. All right, what are we doing now? Target a specific child of an element using jQuery. Oh, jeez. Never seen Clash Royale. Got to try to catch when you play it. Yeah, man, I'm gonna have to put you on a thank you list, man. Thank you for the bits. Really awesome. I have to figure out how to turn down the volume on the thing, though. It's super loud. Alright, so you've seen why ID attributes are so convenient for targeting with jQuery selectors. But you won't always have such neat IDs to work with. Fortunately, jQuery has some other tricks for targeting the right elements. jQuery uses CSS selectors to target elements. The target nth child CSS selector allows you to select all the nth elements with the target class or element type. Here's how you would give the third element in each well the bounce class. So we're using the target nth, every third for n there, we'll add animated bounce. Make the second child in each of your well elements bounce. You must select the element's children with the target class. Okay. So we have our wells, so we can use that to target. Pretty hyped for Nintendo comes out in 2 days. I'll have to check that out. I love RPGs. Love them. So we have our well. We need, what do we have here? What are the, you could just target all the buttons. Second child in each of your well elements. I don't know if that would work. Let's try it. So we'll target all the buttons. The nth child every second. We're gonna add a class animated bounce. Oh, that does do it. Look at that. Okay. So we just select all the buttons. It'll give us a list of all these buttons, and it takes every second one. So 1, 2, 1. I guess it doesn't. Then that would be 1. This would be 2. Whatever. As long as it passes. Only use jQuery to add these classes to the element. What's this Dragalia Lost game about? I love mobile games, but I really don't like how a lot of them are like pay to win or pay to progress. I want like some legit. So I have to use the target class? Oh, okay, I see that it gave him a target class. So we used button and it didn't want us to do that. So, there we go. Gotcha. Target even elements using jQuery. And you can also target elements based on their positions using odd or even selectors. Note that jQuery is a zero indexed, which means Note that jQuery is zero indexed, which means that the first element in a selection has a position of 0, just like we learned with JavaScript arrays. This can be a little confusing as counterintuitively odd selects the second element position 1, fourth element position 3, and so on. That is a little confusing. Here's how you would target all the odd elements with the class target and give them classes. Try selecting all the even target elements and giving them the classes animated and shake. Remember that even refers to the position of elements with a zero-based system in mind. Alright, so we'll do our target even, and we'll add a class, multiple classes, animated and shake. No child can also take odd or even instead of an integer as an argument. I really didn't know that. Wow. Yeah, I will be skipping that game. I'm not about that life. Let's see here, all the target elements that jQuery considers to be even should shake. Use the even selector. All right, we did all that. Let's do it. Use jQuery to modify the entire page. We're done playing with our jQuery playground. Let's tear it down. jQuery can target the body element as well. Here's how we would make the entire body fade out. Body, add class, animated, fade out. But let's do something more dramatic. Add the classes animated and hinge to your body elements. So we'll target our body here. And we're going to add class, animated, and hinge. It is quite dramatic. It is quite dramatic. All right. You did it. All right. That's it for jQuery. We have 15 minutes left, so we are gonna go over Sass here because it's real short. So let's get into it. Introduction to the Sass challenges. Sass, or Syntactically Awesome Style Sheets, is a language extension of CSS. It adds features that aren't available using basic CSS syntax. Sass makes it easier for developers to simplify and maintain the style sheets for their projects. Sass can extend the CSS language because it's a preprocessor. It takes code written using Sass syntax and converts it into basic CSS. This allows you to create variables, nest CSS rules into others, and import other Sass files, among other things. The result is more compact, easier to read code. Yeah, CSS preprocessors are pretty cool. I really don't use them myself too much anymore. I'm a big fan right now of Tailwind CSS, where I use Bootstrap. I have not really used Bootstrap in a long time. But using Bootstrap is better if you know a preprocessor, because you can modify things without overwriting CSS. You can have it like generate out a different grid or different colors and whatnot instead of trying to create your own that overwrite the defaults. Alright. There are two syntaxes available for Sass. The first, known as SCSS, Sassy CSS, and used throughout these challenges, is an extension of the syntax of CSS. This means that every valid CSS style sheet is a valid SCSS file with the same meaning. Files using the syntax have the SCSS extension. The second and older syntax, known as the indented syntax, or sometimes just Sass, uses indentation rather than brackets to indicate nesting of selectors, and new lines rather than semicolons to separate properties. Files using the syntax have the Sass extension. This section introduces the basic features of Sass. Have you tried Materialize? Kinda, yeah. I'm not sure if it was the actual Materialize library that came out or something that was before it. I just had the material kind of, what would you call it, design specs. Alright, let's go to the first lesson. Store data with Sas Variables. One feature of Sass that's different than CSS is it uses variables. They are declared and set to store data, similar to JavaScript. In JavaScript, variables are defined using the let and const keywords. In Sass, variables start with a $, followed by a variable name, just like in PHP. Here are a couple of examples. So we got a main fonts variable, a headings color variable, and to use them, we just call them again. by what we've named them. One example where variables are useful is when a number of elements need to be the same color. If that color is changed, the only place to edit the code is the variable value. Create a variable text color and set it to red. Then change the value of the color property for the blog post in H2 to the text color variable. Alright, so we need to create our text color and we're going to set it to red. Then we come down here and replace this. We can see that it's black right now, but once we change it to text color, it will change back. Did I do it wrong? Oh no, I didn't do it wrong. It's the blog post and comma H2, these colors. Alright. Sweet. Down the rabbit hole we go. Nest CSS with Sass. Sass allows nesting of CSS rules, which is a useful way of organizing a style sheet. Normally, each element is targeted on a different line to style it, like so. So this is how it's normally done. For a large project, the CSS file will have many lines and rules. This is where nesting can help organize your code by placing child style rules within the respective parent elements. So instead, we have our nav here, and then we can nest it. So here you can see you have nav, nav-ul, nav-ul, li. But here we only have each of those things once, and we use nesting, and in the end it will spit out this. Use the nesting technique shown above to reorganize the CSS rules for both children of blog post element. For testing purposes, the H1 should come before the P element. Alright, so for testing purposes, H1 should come before the P, so we want to have one here, and then we'll have our P. We could actually just, if we wanted, boop, we just boop it in there, you know? And it works. So let's run it. Create reusable CSS within mixins. In Sass, a mixin is a group of CSS declarations that can be reused throughout the style sheet. Newer CSS features take time before they are fully adopted and ready to use in all browsers. As features are added to browsers, CSS rules using them may need vendor prefixes. Consider box shadow. So box shadow, before it was widely supported, you needed this for Microsoft's Internet Explorer, you need this for Mozilla, and this was for anything that was on WebKit, which is like, I think Chrome and something else, or was. I don't know. A lot of typing to rewrite this rule for all the elements that have a box shadow, or to change each value to test different effects. Mixins are like functions for CSS. Here's how to write one. So we have a mixin. You just do @mixin. You give it a name. You give it some parentheses with what you would like to pass. So you got X, Y, blur, and C, which just replaces it in here. So then you can use this, and it'll spit out all this with all your variables put in place. The definition starts with @mixin followed by a custom name. The parameters, the X, Y, blur, and C in the example above are optional. Now, anytime a box shadow rule is needed, only a single line calling the mixin replaces having to type all the vendor prefixes. A mixin is called with the include directive. So use include to call our mixin, and then we pass all of our parameters. Write a mixin for border radius and give it a radius parameter. It should use all the vendor prefixes from the example. Then use the border radius mixin to give the awesome element a border radius of 15 pixels. So we have a mixin. It's going to be called border radius. And it will take a radius parameter. I believe syntax, yep. All right. So we just close it off there. Got our awesome green box. So we need, do we have multi-cursors? I think we have multi-cursors here, so we're gonna just make some, just gonna select a bunch of lines and border radius. Actually, we're gonna do the dash first. Dash border radius. This one doesn't need it. This one is dash ms. This one is dash moz. This one is dash webkit. Then we'll use the multi-cursor again. And we'll say radius. And end them out. Now we will include our border radius mixin. And it wants 15 pixels. And there we go. You hold, depending on what operating system you are on, you hold either Control or Command, and you just click. Or it might be Alt. On here it's Alt, I think. One of your shift buttons, just or not shift, but your modifier buttons, just click them, hold them down, and click. And if it works, you'll be able to tell. Yeah, all right. Sweet. Yeah, that's really useful. So we have our border radius on our square now, so it's not so much a square. You just see the difference. All right. Really need to have there's like the pop-up you can do that shows what you're typing. I'll have to look into that. Use @if and else to add logic to your styles. That @if directive in Sass is useful to test for a specific case. It works just like the if statement in JavaScript. So we have mixin make bold. If Boolean is true, font weight bold. Just like in JavaScript, else if and else test for more conditions. So we have text effect. We got a value. If the value is equal to danger, the color is red. If it's alert, yellow, green, so on. Create a mixin called border stroke that takes a parameter value. The mixin should check if for the following conditions using @if, @elsif, and @else. So we're going to create a new mixin called border stroke, and it takes a value. And then if the value is equal to, and let's look at all our values here. We have light, myself here, I will just copy this line and paste it a bunch. And then medium, heavy, and none. Now we just need to change this. So this is an else. This is an else if. This is an else if. And then we will do our multi-cursor at the end of these to start typing out this. So your color. Oh, it's not color. What are we doing? Okay, so border. We'll do PX solid black. So we need all of that stuff for most of them, and we'll start from the bottom here, and we'll say none. I think none works. This will be 6 pixels, this will be 3 pixels, and this will be 1 pixel. Include border stroke medium. So here we can test. Let's test none. That doesn't seem to work. We also need to end these. We might not need to end them, but we will. I think this might need to be a 0. Oh. It's not a value. There we go. So border stroke with nothing in it. We have light, heavy, medium, and then nothing. Confused there. Why does the square just disappear? Your code should declare mixin, name border stroke, takes a val. We got that. Your mixin should have an if. Sets it to none. Okay, I mean, that's what we got. Well, that's kind of crappy. You have to have an empty parentheses there. Whatever, as long as it works. What? Okay. Use @for to create a Sass loop. Apparently that last lesson didn't like our parentheses around the words. Or not parentheses, but quotations. That for directive adds styles in a loop, very similar to a for loop in JavaScript. A at for is used in two ways: start through end or start to end. Main difference is that start to end excludes the end number and start through end includes the end number. Here's a start through end example. So for I from 1 through 12, create column, blah, blah, blah. The hashtag, this markup here is the syntax to combine a variable I with the text to make a string. So this will spit out a string for us using the variable that we have. The Sass file is converted to CSS. It will look like this. So we have column 1, 2, and it'll go through all the way to 12. This is a powerful way to create a grid layout. Now you have 12 options for column widths available as CSS classes. Write a @for directive that takes a variable j that goes from 1 to 6. It should create 5 classes called text1 to text5, where each has a font size set to 10 pixels multiplied by the index. So we need a @for. I've never written one of these or this before, so let's scroll up. It's going to be a j variable from 1 through one, 2. They're trying to trick us. They gave this the through example, and then at the end they tell us they want a to example. And this should create a text, and then the variable, which is j. This needs to be a hashtag. And we will say, what is it? Font size. Font size is 10 pixels times j. Oh, we have to end it. That'd probably help. There we go. Alright, so we didn't end this curly brace here, so it was mad. And now that we have it, seems to be working. Good. Use @each to map over items in a list. The last challenge showed how the @for directive uses a starting and ending value to loop a certain number of times. Sass also offers each directive, which loops over each item in a list or map. On each iteration, the variable gets assigned to the current value from the list or map. So for each color in blue, red, and green, we create a color-text with that color. A map has slightly different syntax. Here's an example. We have a list of colors here, and then each key and color in colors, we use kind of the same thing. Note that the key variable is needed to reference the keys in the map. Otherwise, the compiled CSS would have color 1, color 2 in it. Both of the above code examples are converted into the following CSS. Blue text, red text, green text. Write in each directive that goes through a list, blue, black, and red, and assigns each variable to a color background class where the color part changes for each item. Each class should set the background color to the respective color. Right, let's scroll back up to this each example here. So we need to do an @each. We're gonna go with the simpler syntax here. So blue, black, and red. We'll actually copy that. So we have each color in blue, black, and red, and then set up that. And we just say, let's see here, what did it want? It wants color, oh, the color here. Alright, so we need to use that syntax replacing thing. Color. Make sure that's different than this one. Or the same. It is the same. We want background though. And then we'll just put the CSS for it. Yeah. So we do background color. It's gonna equal color. And then we have blue, black, and red. Look at that. Fancy. Fancy. Alright, apply a style until a condition is met with while. The while directive is an option with similar functionality to the JavaScript while loop. It creates CSS rules until a condition is met. The for challenge gave an example to create a simple grid system. This can also work with while. So we set up a variable x, it's 1, while x is less than 13. We create these classes, and then we make x equal to x plus 1. First define a variable, okay, that's saying what I just said. After setting the CSS rule for width, x is incremented by 1 to avoid an infinite loop. Use that while to create a series of classes with different font sizes. There should be 10 different classes from text 1 to text 10, then set font size to 5 pixels multiplied by the current index number. Make sure to avoid an infinite loop. All right. So we just set up our variable first. We have 1. We have at while x is less than 11. We do equals then. Do all this, and then let's go ahead and do our x plus 1 right away so we avoid any nasty loops. Sure, it was already looping. And then we want this to create column classes. Oh, this is for font size. Oops. So it wants us to do text. And then do font size. It's gonna be 5 times x. Close that out. We have an error here. There we go. Your browser crashed? What fucking browser are you using, bud? They should have. Like, I always worry about that, but I thought that they had something in here that would, like, that stops that from happening. That's funny. You could write everything inside here first, and then write the while. Like, start out with this and then write everything else. Wow, that's sucks. I'm sorry. All right, let's the tab crashed. I'm using Firefox. All right. Let's split your styles into smaller chunks with partials. Partials in Sass are separate files that hold segments of CSS code. These are imported and used in other Sass files. This is a great way to group similar code into a module to keep it organized. Names for partials start with the underscore character, which tells Sass it is a small segment of CSS and not to convert it into a CSS file. Also, Sass files end with the SCSS file extension. To bring the code in the partial into another Sass file, use the import directive. For example, if all your mixins are saved in a partial named mixins SCSS and they are needed in the main CSS file, SCSS file, this is how to use them in the main file. We just import mixins. Oops. Note that the underscore is not needed in the import statement. Sass understands it is a partial. Once a partial is imported into a file, all variables, mixins, and other code are available to use. Write an import statement to import a partial named variables into the main SCSS file. So we just import variables.scss, and we don't even need that. We just need the variables. Okay. Extend one set of CSS styles to another element. Sass has a feature called Extend that makes it easy to borrow the CSS rules from one element and build upon them in another. For example, the below block of CSS rules style a panel class. It has a background color, height, and a border. Now you want another panel called Big Panel. It has the same base properties as panel, but also needs a width and a font size. It's possible to copy and paste the initial CSS from the rules from panel. The code becomes repetitive as you add more types of panels. The extend directive is a simple way to reuse the rules written for one element, then add more for another. This extend is awesome. The big panel will have the same properties as panel in addition to the new styles. Make a class info important that extends info and also has a background color set to magenta. So we just do... Alright, we do our info important. And inside here we extend info. So that gives us all of the info classes. But we also want a background color of magenta. All right. Well, that was it. That was it. It's everything. Super excited to continue on to these React challenges tomorrow. I have not really learned React myself. It's very, very popular. I have learned something similar, so hopefully it won't be a complete shit show. Pretty sweet. So we'll learn React, and then we got Redux, and React and Redux together, and then our projects. I'm guessing that these will each take about a day to complete in themselves. Maybe we can do React in a day and Redux and React and Redux in a day. I don't know. I do work as a web dev. Yep. That's how I get paid. You can see more about that at jordanbeatty.com if you'd like. I have a blog. It has some blogs stuff in it. And my CV. Shameless plug. Yes. That's very difficult for me, by the way. The hardest part about doing this whole streaming thing is like just having to be like shameless and marketing yourself and saying super corny things. I feel so uncomfortable doing it all. That's alright. I'm pumped. Getting shit done. How much have we completed? We've completed 543 out of 14,009 coding challenges. Built 5 out of 30 projects, and we have 2 out of 6 certifications. About to make that 3. Alright, guys. Oh, 1,409. Oops. Oops. That'd be a lot of challenges, eh? Sometimes I just say words, and they're not the right words. They're close. You know what I meant. This is a good quote. Alright, guys. I'm gonna see if we can't find somebody to... No, I can't. Let's see if anybody is on. Awesome, man. I hope that you will be here. I'm gonna just go ahead and find somebody to maybe possibly host. Because networking, and I'll be done. Really nobody on though. Alright, so I think we're just gonna end it. Let me turn off this music first. Alright. Boom. So man, see you for React. Yeah, I hope that you stop by. It's always great having somebody to chat along with. Want to say thank you again to Navanos for the biddies. First bits ever. It's awesome of you. Thank you, Digicrest, for chatting with me. Thanks for anybody else who stopped by and watched and lurked. I'll be back later tonight, 8 p.m. EST, for some Clash Royale. Made it to 4,600 trophies for the first time last night. Guess we'll see if we can get any higher. Anyways, catch you all later. Peace.